All right, a new day and a new round of rust repair. Today we're going to work on the inner quarter structure on the passenger side. Let's wheel in here and take a look. All right, this guy right here, rust hole there. This front edge here is pretty gnarly. Down along the bottom is pretty gnarly. This one doesn't have a hole in it there, and the back edge here isn't too chewed up. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. Last time I made patches for it while it was still on there, but this one here, since I don't have to do a whole lot in here, I don't think, I want to pull this off, as well as it's got kind of a line of rust in here, and I just want to make sure that that isn't all the way through or whatever, because I'll need to rebuild the bottom half of this, the front half of this, and of course this little horn that sticks out here. Let's get to it. All right, let's pull back the curtain and see what we got. Oh yeah, that's rusty and crusty and dirty and gross. What's the inside look like? Oh yeah, that's delicious. That's yummy. And look, there's even a rust hole in the top of the rocker right there. That's gonna suck. Oh well, yeah, let's clean this up a little bit and see what we're actually working with. Okay, after a little quality time with the wire wheel, I got this area cleaned up. It actually doesn't look too terrible. It looks pretty good. The metal's good on it, all except for this hole right here. Now then, to access that, I'm going to have to cut this quarter panel over in here somewhere. But before I do that, we'll hold off on that guy there, and we'll repair this piece here. I cleaned up the back side of it, and it's really not looking too bad. I cleaned the metal off the back side of it here where they had welded on that new outer wheelhouse, and yeah, it just needs some repair here and along this front edge and then down along the bottom here. So I'll jump on this guy here, get it fixed up, and then I'll sort out that hole. All right, first thing I did was clamp this thing up here where I liked it, where I was real happy with it, and then I went through and I drilled little holes, and I made my little redneck clecos to go in there, you know, just a coat hanger wire that's bent over, fits in there, and then I can that'll help me line it up and get it back in the exact same spot every time. As well, I marked out where I want to replace this, down through there, where I need to make a patch for this end here, and then as well kind of where I want to put metal on there. Next thing I'm going to do is take some tape here and tape up this hole and make a template for a patch piece. Okay, I covered the hole with tape following the contours of the piece, and then I marked out those contours, and then I used that to cut out little templates. This guy goes right up here. Then there's a piece that goes right down here, like so, roughly, somewhat around in there, and then another piece that fills the gap between the two, that guy right there. So now then I'm going to transfer these to some 18 gauge and cut them out in steel. Okay, I've got my pieces cut out in steel, and I'm just beating them with a hammer until they fall into shape here. You can see I've got this piece here clamped up there. Got this piece here where it fits up there pretty good. You can see that. It's got the contours that fit pretty well. Looking good. And I've also got this piece here, and I threw a little curve to it there so that it'll fit right in here pretty well. See if I can do this one-handed. Yeah, something kind of like that. I think I can go ahead and bust out the welder and tack this stuff together and then keep shaping it. Okay, I've got this tack welded together. Now I can pull it off there, cut off the excess, beat it into shape so it looks nice, and weld it all up. and get her done. Okay, got her welded up here. She's looking pretty good. I kind of screwed this one up in that I was lazy and didn't cut it properly before welding it up here, and you can see where the metals overlap there. I'm going to have to come back and touch this up, but it's nothing that a little weld and grind isn't going to fix. But it's looking good enough. I can go ahead and tack it up into the inner quarter over there and get it ready for the cut and butt. So let's go do that. Okay, here's a quick look at the hole that I've made the patch for. And here's the patch that's going to go over that. And it'll fit right in here like about so. Here it is clamped into place. Now what I can do is just throw a couple tack welds kind of around the perimeter of it, and then I can pull this whole panel off and cut along that edge and weld as I cut. So let's do that. Okay, I got this tacked on here in a few different spots. Now I'll come through with the air saw and cut this, and as I cut it, then I'll lay the two pieces, butt them up together, and then I can weld them as I go. And just go around it like that, and then once I'm done, I can cut off any of the excess that I don't need. Okay, got her welded up here. It's looking pretty good, especially for a part of the car nobody's going to see. Nice and solid. Now I've just got to cut strips to put in here and then along the bottom, and do a little cleanup repair on that little edge there. So let's get to doing that. Now I got to cut a strip of metal, so I bust out the CNC plasma table, which is basically just a plasma cutter and a sawhorse, but it makes a pretty nice little strip of metal. Let's see if we can use that. Usually I don't get a real straight edge whenever I use the plasma cutter. Sometimes I can be kind of rough, but this time I did a good job and I made a nice flat edge, so I'm going to use that as the edge, and I'm going to do that same cut and butt here. I'll tack weld it along here and then start cutting it and welding it. Yep. Alright, she's coming along really nicely, getting her butted up there and cut. While I had it tacked with that back piece on there, I went and drilled the marks for the redneck clecos, so I don't lose those. Hopefully it doesn't move too much while I'm welding this, that they don't line up, but should be fine. Well, I about got it welded up. I went ahead and threw the strip on here as well, and continued welding them up, but I ran out of gas, so I gotta go get some gas. And then I'll finish this up. It's looking pretty good. I've got a few holes and a few blank spots to fill, but other than that, she's just about done. Let's take a look over here, up this way. Yep, not bad. A little gap, a little bit there that's got to be welded up, but other than that, it's looking pretty good on this side. Yep. Yeah, we're gonna have this ready to go back on the car in no time. All right, got some gas and finished welding this guy up. Looking good. Down through there. Not bad. And then down across here. I think I can live with it. Also filled in the holes that were along this side here. But yeah, now let's go test fit this on the car. Okay, got her clamp back up here. She's looking real good. It'll almost be time to weld this in. I've still got to trim off that a little bit. But before I can do that, I've got a rust hole on top of the rocker that I've got to get to. And wheel around here. I'm going to have to cut this guy here so that I can gain access to it. I have to think about that for a minute. Okay, I stripped the paint off of here and I marked out kind of where I think I want to cut this. I want to make sure that I take out a big enough piece that I can get full access in here and not have to cut more. But yeah, you can see right around in here maybe where that rust hole is. Yeah, it's right down underneath here. So I want to make sure that I've got enough room to get a patch in there and get it all welded up and take care of it. So let's cut that off there. Okay, got it cut out of there. I had to cut off this little bottom section here because there's some plug welds there and I wasn't entirely sure where they were, so it made it hard to cut them off. But yeah, you can see how rusted out that is. And then this is where they had a plug weld Yeah, let's clean the rest of this metal off here and see what we're really working with. Okay, I got that all cut off there and cleaned up. Whenever they replaced the quarters on this thing, they just drilled through the spot welds and then just left it. They didn't do any cleanup at all. Just left the holes and then welded the new quarter panel over the top of it. I kind of marked out here where the bad metal is and where the good metal is. Now I've got some 16 gauge right here. I'll cut a little patch for that and bend it into shape to fit right in there. Let's do that. Okay, made up my little patch piece here. It should fit just fine. We'll go ahead and start cutting on this thing. Okay, got that piece cut out of there. This is it here. Other than that rusty hole, the metal doesn't look too terrible. I mean, it's got a little surface rust in some areas, but for the most part, it's pretty solid. So that makes me hopeful for the future. Now I cut that and I trimmed it out, and then I trimmed on the patch a little bit, and we'll see if she fits pretty near perfect. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I think that'll work just fine. I know the lighting's not perfect here, but as you can see, once I tack it into place, it should be just fine. I can bust out the welder and start welding this guy. Let's do that. Okay, got it all welded up here. Now I just need some quality time with the grinder, and we'll have this done. There's the back side of it. I sure like welding on the 16 gauge a lot better than I do anything else. Okay, got my welds all ground down. It's looking real good. I'm real happy with it. I've got a little bit of touch up left to do on the back side, just right about there, but I'll do that whenever I clean up the spot welder beauty marks along here. For now, let's fix this guy and get it ready to go in. Yeah. Alright, now to repair this little duder here, I've got to extend the front of it because I had to cut it back, and with the weld and everything, I think about half an inch, half to 3/4 of an inch. I need to extend this here, and then I also need to rebuild the side of it here. So let's get to doing that. Okay, after digging through my scrap pile of 18 gauge pieces, I found these guys here that'll probably work. I can use this guy here to extend that end, and then use this guy here to fill in the rest of it. So let's do that. First thing, I want to bend a 90 for this edge, and then I'll fit it up here, and then I'll bend a 90 for this edge of that piece there. Okay, I threw a couple bends in that piece there to match up with the existing piece. I'm going to go ahead and tack it together in a couple spots there, and then whenever I get it all done, I can just cut off the excess. No, won't be a problem. Okay, I went ahead and welded that guy there up. It's looking real good. I'm real happy with it. Now I just need to fill in that blank spot there. Cut a piece here, fit her in there, and weld her up. Okay, I've got it mostly welded up here. I'm going to go ahead and cut a straight line off of this guy, and then I can test fit it. Alright, I got caught up in the cut weld grind ballet, but I cut the length here, I cut the distance there. It's looking pretty good. I think just a little bit more tweaking, then I can drill it for plug welds along the bottom and 2 across the top, and get this put into place. I think it's looking pretty good as far as, like, you know, cutting it up, welding it up. I like the patch in here. Looks really good. Should probably hit that with some weld through primer. Also this guy on the back side. It's still got the E-coat. I assume that's E-coat. I haven't tried it, but I assume that's E-coat from the quarter panel whenever they replaced it. It's got it's a fresh quarter panel. Like, there's nothing wrong with it at all. The installation was a little bit sketchy, but I think we're fixing that. Okay, I tweaked this guy a little bit, drilled it for plug welds, hit it with a good coat of weld through primer, and I think we're ready to burn it in. Let's do that. Okay, I'm starting to weld this in here, doing the butt weld first. tack it in a few spots, taking my time, making sure that it's lined up really nicely. Hopefully it'll turn out real well. Let's keep welding. Okay, I got it all welded on there. Along the butt weld anyway. I still haven't done the plug welds. I'll do those later. First off, I want to grind this down and see what I'm working with. See if it looks any good. Let's do that. Okay, I got her all welded up and ground down. Did the plug welds and ground everything. It's looking real good. Like you can't... it's really hard to tell that anything was done with this. But it was cut off there, repaired, and put back. Looks good. Now I can move on to putting that piece there back in here. Let's do that. Okay, I've got it marked where I want my spot welds to go along the bottom here as well as along this edge here. I've scribed along that guy on the other side where I want to cut it off. I think I can pull this off here, clean it all up, weld through primer, drill holes, and weld this thing in. Let's do that. Okay, trimmed the corner, drilled this out, gave it a good coat of weld through primer on the back. Also weld through primer on here. Wiped off where I'm going to be welding. And I also opened up the back over here. So opened this up a little bit more so that I can get in here and it's not going to be in my way at all. I can start welding it together. Okay, got it all welded up, ground down. It's looking real good. I'm pretty happy with it. I might come back and touch up some of those pinholes later, but so far so good. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna go drink beer now. Enjoy.